So please just welcome on stage my dear friend Torsten Hoffmann, 3DCH Media producer and filmmaker, because we're just about to have a fantastic preview about Fortitude, the forging of the $3 trillion space economy. Torsten, the stage is yours.
I'm Torsten Hoffmann, an award-winning filmmaker, entrepreneur, and techno-optimist. I'm really into emerging technologies and how trillion-dollar industries are forming around them.
There were headlines, new era private industry is going to lead the way.
Right now, the space sector is going ballistic.
No, they're not.
And trust me, it's way bigger than Musk and Bezos.
SpaceX were the first private company to put a satellite in orbit. We were the second.
So allow me to whirl you around the world, catapult you into orbit, and hurl you through space.
Oh my God.
My mommy could be an astronaut.
A CubeSat can be as small as this.
Launching into space for, say, $100,000.
So why is this guy spending $2 billion on 3 huge satellites?
Are you crazy?
No.
We don't have the right to make mistakes because it would be fatal.
Something like this re-entering and hitting a populated area.
I deorbited dozens of spacecraft. Well, we don't have to do that anymore.
Refueling satellites in orbit, drug development in microgravity, mining on asteroids.
The amount of platinum group metal is in the trillions of dollars.
Someone is already building a space hotel, like the one I read about as a kid.
This is happening. We are building a space station.
If the public does not see the value of this
is creating a $1 trillion market opportunity.
I will work to ensure that they do.
Roger that.
Let's meet those turning science fiction into science fact.
All right, a little bit of a different start. Hope you enjoyed that. My name is Torsten Hoffmann, and I'm going to show you a little bit about Fortitude and kind of address maybe one of the topics that I keep hearing, yesterday certainly, about we have to kind of get outside of our bubble, like talk to the general audience why space matters, or talk to other verticals so they understand the benefits of space. So hopefully some ideas here. So just quickly about myself. So I'm originally German, and I lived in several countries. And I not only do films, but I'm a kind of an entrepreneur and investor myself. And I'd like to say one thing. Maybe you've noticed this. There's one trend, many trends as always, but one trend in media that the content is getting dumber and dumber, and not to pick on Netflix, but just as an example, some Netflix series, documentary series, are like 6 mini episodes, and you can't really tell that story in one, right? And oddly, like in podcasts, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's like we listen to 3 hours of they talk about one topic, like something very specific. So I try to be like on the sophisticated side. I'm very happy at these events that I have. Like I had what was it? Guinness World Record holder, spacewalk. He's been in the space industry for 40 years. And he said, well, I still learned something from your film. So you are my audience. You are the sophisticated, smart audience. My last film, Cryptopia, is on Netflix in Europe. And the one I'm going to show you today, Fortitude, is on Apple TV and Amazon, but not in all countries. And I'm very happy to send all of you a link. And Andreas, where's Andreas? Can't see him. He's probably preparing for the party. I will talk to him about it. So, Fortitude. Fun project. Took me more than 3 years to make 90 interviews all around the world, 4 continents, went all over the place. And the reason why it takes so long is I'm kind of like an honest entrepreneurial filmmaker. I actually learn every time you talk to me. I learn something new. Oh, you should check out these guys. You should check out these guys and this company. What do they do? And that's why it takes way too long, and it's not very economical. But at least it's not a broadcaster or Netflix telling me what to film. It's my own stories. I always show this chart, and you're not the right audience for this chart. You all know this, but it is really a $1 trillion industry. It already is $600 billion, I believe. And then you can have a look at all the forecast from famous analysts and so forth. So this is a $1 trillion economy, and we're all excited about it, right? So this is the way I see the economy. There's not one way to do it, many ways. Simplifying. There's number one. The Earth to space sector, things that go up, astronauts and rockets. Number 2, everything that comes down, the satellites, the data, the climate change stuff, all the exciting use cases and case studies, of course. And then number 3, space to space, that's kind of my favorite one, the real sci-fi stuff, the one that's maybe not as advanced, but surely a lot of super interesting stuff is happening. It's my favorite chart in the last video I showed today. Again, talk to my mother, to someone who doesn't know about space. This may be a good framing. Another chart, again, you know the general trend. Of course, it's going up to the right, right? But maybe you haven't seen the one on the axis in the 50s. So maybe we used to have lots of rocket launches, obviously. The first space race, we're now in the second space race. And I mean, nobody needs to be a rocket scientist to know that this is just going to take off now. We're just at the beginning of a very steep curve and going up. But of course, at the same time, we're excited about the curve going the other way, right? The costs are going down. And with Starship, obviously, another order of magnitude, which is the last chart, the last bar that we can barely see, that we barely can see. That, of course, also creates a problem, right? Too many satellites, space debris, all that stuff. We need to talk about it. We need to be honest storytellers here. I'm going to show you the first clip. This is about storytelling. I'm going to talk about the general idea later. This is Rocket Lab. Let's play that video. It's about a minute or so long. Thank you.
SpaceX were the first private company to put a satellite in orbit. We were the second. We're often asked, like, who do we see as our competitors? And really, it's only SpaceX if we're honest about it.
Peter didn't go to university and instead cut his teeth building jetpacks and bicycles with rocket propulsion. He founded Rocket Lab in the most unlikely of places, New Zealand. His home country lacks robust venture capital, and don't they have strong regulations there?
That's right. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Torsten.
I do also hear sometimes a little bit of criticism about the fossil fuels that are being burned.
We have more carbon emissions from the diesel generators at the launch site than we actually do from the rocket. But like I say, for one launch for us is the equivalent of going from LA to San Francisco, and I don't know how many hundred flights there are that a week, but tremendous number.
Rocket Lab has an impressive track record and a stellar reputation, but
does what you guys are doing even matter if a company like SpaceX is pulling up 200,000 kilograms a quarter?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. And the reality is, as I mentioned to you before, like if you have to get a satellite to a particular destination for it to be commercial. So piling up 100 tons of satellites and dumping them all out in one spot doesn't make a business. It's kind of got all of the advantages and disadvantages of riding a bus. So, you don't get your schedule certainty. The bus arrives when it arrives and it leaves when it leaves. You might be sitting beside someone smelly, but it's cheap.
Right, so you won't see Peter taking the bus anytime soon. His company is like a white-gloved limousine service. Personally, I am more of an Uber guy.
We are kind of Uber in space, just a little bit more complicated. For example, when Falcon 9 delivers a bunch of satellites to the target orbit.
So we had to cut it off for time, but I'm going to say something about Exolaunch, one of my favorite companies, in a second. But just quickly, what happened here, right? So Rocket Lab, great guy, read the book, Ashley Vance's book recently, amazing backstory to Rocket Lab. He says, SpaceX is just a bus, right? It leaves when it leaves, might be late, something like that, right? But we are a limousine service, that's kind of like the analogy that I made up. And then I am more of an Uber guy. And then Exolaunch tells me how that works, the ride sharing. It's a fantastic sequence, and actually we should celebrate. I'm a techno-optimist. We should celebrate these companies, especially local European companies. And then the next one is the Express. Then they said, okay, well, maybe the military doesn't want the Uber. The military might want an Express. They call up Firefly in this case. You got to launch within 24 hours. And they actually made it to a specific point in orbit within 24 hours. Never been done before, faster than 21 days. So that's the next story. So storytelling: bus, limousine, Uber, Express. One way to tell a story. Again, it's not the only way to tell a story, but that's how I did it. And hopefully you enjoyed that one. All right, so more charts. I think just one slide, maybe two. Obviously, the number of satellites going up, again, up to the right. Great news. If you look a little bit closer, it's mostly 80%, I think, American, right? We celebrate the European space ecosystem, but let's be honest, 80%, right? And then the 80% of that is one company. And I think the script line is dominated by a single company, run by a very singular man. So it's a very special relationship there. Up to the right, but with a little bit of a disclaimer here. Many interesting use cases in satellites. Obviously, those are the ones that you typically hear. I love the simplicity of it. Planet Labs, largest satellite constellation in the world. They tell me from the first generation of satellites to the current one, a 10,000-fold increase in capability. Make it simple. Make the numbers big. That's what, how you tell the story. 10,000 times X. Then that lady, she used to work for a space agency, now at Catapult. She basically says, I used to work on billion-dollar satellites. Now you can launch for 100,000. That's another 1,000x. So multiply these numbers. It's crazy, right? What an exciting time to be in this industry. And then many use cases, obviously, and you know more about this than I do. Climate change is one of them, and this lady says, well, with our data, the farmers in developing markets might have a 38% more yield, which can solve hunger and feed hundreds of millions of people. Have a look at this. This is a German company, a really cool company. You probably heard about it. It's a short little fun sequence. Let's see how you like that story. Next movie with it.
Radar, infrared, so many different technologies serving different customer needs. In a dark forest, mein Freund Sven has identified a market opportunity. He's building a business based on all this new data.
And how can you help me not have train delays?
That's a great question. So what we do is we analyze satellite data and identify precisely where trees are standing too close to railway tracks and where they could fall potentially on them. The trees is one of the biggest reasons why trains are being delayed. We can identify where the trees are, how tall they are, whether they are sick. So what we do is we take two satellite images which are taken from slightly different angles. And from these two satellite images, we calculate the height of the tree. It works very similar to your human eye. So your eyes can calculate depth.
3D glasses for satellites. Brilliant. Live.io has raised one of the largest space investment rounds in Europe. They already protect millions of miles of railway tracks and electrical grids globally. With their help, I'll make it to my next destination on time. A former American spy station in Berlin, Teufelsberg.
Locations like this remind us that governments have been spying on other governments and sometimes their own citizens for a very long time.
But finally, space data can empower us to look back at government activities with a virtual time machine.
I think our data in general can be very empowering for journalists around the world. It's a tool that enables them to see what's going on. There's a great case where some journalists from BuzzFeed had used our data to discover Uyghur detention camps.
Mega is an investigative journalist who was based in China for many years until somehow her visa wasn't extended.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for catching that.
Satellite data helped her and two collaborators to get to the truth on the ground, and they won a Pulitzer for it.
So basically, the process started actually with Baidu Maps, where we noticed that.
So just to kind of recap what we just saw, I mean, it's totally crazy. Again, think about my mother or your friend who doesn't know about the space industry. Two satellites, slightly different angle. You can measure an individual tree, how high it is, can see whether it's sick and whether it might fall on the power line or train track. And this guy is building a business around it. It's just fantastic. And by the way, I should have said earlier, even though this is a celebration of space and of this industry, we also need to be honest about critical questions. So maybe you remember the Rocket Lab. I did ask the question about emissions, right? CO2 on the way out. His answer was very good. I also asked him, well, SpaceX is way ahead of you. Why are you different? And again, we don't want to shy away from tricky topics. And I chose to put in the China human rights story. That lady basically used satellite data, among other things, including sources on the ground, to actually check whether these are concentration camps or not. And they won the Pulitzer Prize for it. And she has nothing to do otherwise with space, but she used space data. Okay, let's see what we have next here. What's this? DJ? Here we go. Yes. Space to space. We're in a Raumschiff, in a space station. So my favorite chapter, space to space. Many cool use cases. I'll just do a few bullets here. Some of it might also be new to some in the audience. I mean, obviously, we're now building private space stations. ISS is kind of on its way out, and one of them is built in Germany, by the way. And ESA is a key partner of Starlab. Axiom is the other one. The one that the thing about Axiom that I highlight is that their launch sequence is different. They actually attach to the ISS, then build more modules, and then detach from it. So it's a different launch model. Whereas Starlab goes in one Starship, and the whole station is being launched by one rocket launch. Crazy. And then what can you do on these space stations? I mean, obviously, you can do interesting pharma, microgravity research. We have Merck as a use case there. We can manufacture special materials that we otherwise would not be able to manufacture. An expert from the European Space Agency tells me about that. Again, very sci-fi, maybe a few years out, maybe not quite commercial, but really cool stuff to tell the story. And then maybe the craziest is asteroid mining, and I mean, obviously, it's $1 trillion market. Each one of those, gold or platinum and stuff. But the interesting bit about that startup is they actually had more money than they needed, like from investor interest. I mean, that story was so sexy to American investors in their accelerated program that they couldn't take on all the investment. And that is something that I hear from this ecosystem, that maybe the money isn't flowing as freely here. And then what else can you do on the spaceships? Obviously, you can have a hotel. So I want to show you one of my favorite scenes, kind of a fun one to script. Hopefully, you get a chuckle or two out of it. This is the Space Hotel. Next video, please.
Gold rush happening right now. Maybe someone is already building a space hotel, like the one I read about as a kid.
Well, we signed a partnership with Hilton, and as you reimagine human habitation in space, why not go to a habitation expert? So that's one strength that Hilton brings to the table.
I don't know how many stars this hotel will have in the Hitchhiker's Guide, but I'll take the penthouse with the views, please.
Second strength is they're spending a lot of money researching things like antimicrobial technology.
Finally, some peace and quiet, a real getaway. In the space elevator, I imagine how my stay would be like. For once, I'll hit the gym before sunrise and finally will improve my bench press. Here, I'll even weigh less.
And it's also a brand that everyone knows. And I think it lends credibility to the fact that this is happening.
I'll have my Ecuadorian coffee just over the equator and eat my yogurt while spying on the Great Wall of China. Oh, it's full of stars.
Well, it's going to be expensive. I hate to break it to you, Torsten. It's not going to be cheap.
It's definitely glowing here.
When you're hungry, there is no bigger food desert than space, a place where you cannot waste anything. So how can humans live here sustainably? Paris-based Interstellar Lab.
So the sequence here, sure, that wasn't hard to understand. Space stations are being built. The Hilton is one of the clients on it. They are building a space station. Then you have to eat, so you're hungry. But all these lines, every single word almost in that script was related to a previous story. So I mentioned yogurt, where we have a school class that sent yogurt, probiotic yogurt, to the space station and analyzed the bacteria. There was a line about equator, right? Spying on the Great Wall of China as the reference to the other story. So we try to be very intricate and make it fun. In fact, one of my producers, René, is here. He said something very nice. Where's René? Hi, one of the producers from Switzerland. He said, I've now watched the film 5 times and still I find new little things. And so those are like the little nuggets here. I've been talking a little bit fast, which gives you more opportunity to maybe ask a few questions or to go to the beers earlier in a minute. But I want to say one thing for all of you from the German-speaking world. So this film is already on Apple and on Amazon, many countries, but we are now doing a German version of it. A German version meaning not only translating, but actually adding German voices, German speaking, German, Swiss, or Austrian, voices, experts, interviewees, companies, startups. And also, we're going to do that with frequency. So maybe you tell me this, we're going to raise this much money, we're going to launch in this year. Next year, I'll come back and ask you, did you actually launch? Or, did you get rich? Or did you fail? We want to develop these stories. So I'm hopefully a frequent guest at these things. And I've been for 3 years now. And to really become a partner and do more of these, films, but also maybe events with you guys. So that was it. I'm just going to say thank you again to the organizers for having me. And please ask some questions, because I know I'm seeing a few puzzled or interested minds here. So let's hear it. And then, Emma, you can also come up. I think we're going to have a Q&A. So, sorry, thank you. Thank you so much, for tonight.
So, first of all, congratulations. It seems like a great movie. The first question I wanted to ask, when can we see it? But as I learned now, it's already there, but not in Germany. Is this correct?
Yes. So, I'm going to send you guys all a free link. Obviously, it is on Apple and Amazon internationally, but not in German. But we're doing a German version for Amazon Deutschland, and it might be on one of the broadcast platforms as well.
And it was for so many years and a lot of effort. Can you tell us how was it financed and what was the budget for the film?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to go all the way back to the starting slide, which I think is maybe So, like I said in the beginning, I'm an honest entrepreneurial filmmaker, so it's mostly my own capital. There's some sponsorship in it. In fact, that's another reason I wanted to show you this. There's like 6 or 7 logos on the astronaut. There's a few companies that are in the film. It's not always money exchange, but these are partners. I come to their offices, or they want to be part of the next one. The German one, because there's not much money in the German broadcast market, is entirely financed by the companies in the film. And sorry, the budget, this one was about 300,000 maybe.
So it seems like a great film, but you mentioned one problem. Things develop so fast that if it is in 1 year, everything has changed then. How often will you have updates from this film?
Yeah, and by the way, there's many tricks. So my previous film, Cryptopia, is about crypto, which changes like every day, right? So obviously, we never talk about the price of Bitcoin or something. So there's a way to kind of make the film last longer by just being a little bit clever about it. So for example, when an interviewee says, "Oh, last week SpaceX launched," I say, "Don't say last week," says without the time reference. But we want to do it every 18 months or so, depending how it goes. So yeah, keep talking to the experts here.
Okay. Congratulations, great.
Thank you. And another theme in the film, while the next one, was it a hand? Sorry, did I see a hand? There, right up. We also are, like I said, techno-optimist, but also realistic in terms of the collaboration, right? We have the US State Department in the film, White House, United Nations, Department of Defense. In fact, one of the script lines is, defense isn't a dirty word in space, right? So kind of the pipeline, the collaboration between the defense sector and industry, just as one other example.
Torsten, you have interviewed a lot of people. Also here, but I now would like to really know from your side, how do you feel here the ecosystem comparing to all your interviews which you have done with Peter Beck and the other guys from US? How do you personally, please, also honestly, evaluate the situation in Germany/Europe?
Yeah. So I've asked this question literally 6 times today, so we've been filming today. And I think 5 of the people said, well, we have the right research, I believe them. We have the right people and talent and the right ideas, I believe most of them. But there's maybe that growth mindset is maybe lacking. But everybody, like all of these 5 people, they all said the capital is lacking. So it's I think that would be my answer number 1. So capital is lacking. And also, we are a little bit slower here in this part of the world. Like when you go to Asia or America, it's just moving faster, which is a real problem. To catch up. Any more questions on this side, maybe? Right here, front row, and on front.
Yeah, thanks, Torsten. I guess you displayed how you show the progress of space research, space industry with your movie. But the other way around, I refer to Star Trek and others, how like in the 60s and 70s, like motivated movies, serials, industry and innovation. So in my age, when I was young, Star Trek was about the movie say, well, this is the future. And there are lots of industry, including smartphones and all these gadgets, which took up some of the recommendations, set aside the first kiss between a white and a black woman displayed in movies. So how you see, or is this kind of missing today? Is this like motivating future series missing today, or are they out of scope nowadays?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Thank you for that. It is not missing, but it's missing here. So in fact, I have like this new generation of astronauts in the film. They come from India, Mexico, and Egypt, and they're literally superstars in the film. So the script line is, one of them has a Barbie doll after herself. So she is legit a Mexican superstar, Katya. And basically the script line is, they are in the cultural zeitgeist, just like Neil Armstrong was in the 60s in America and then forged that whole generation, right? The other thing, I have not much Chinese content in the film, but we have one expert on the Chinese space economy, and he says, look, all the American kids want to be TikTokers, Chinese platform, by the way, and all the Chinese kids want to be taikonauts, astronauts. So my answer to you is, well, it's not lacking, but it's lacking here in the West, which again might be a small problem. There was a lady as well, just right there, yeah.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. Do you see a little bit of, have you noticed a little bit of a doubt in the future of the economy? Because we're talking about the trillion economy, but at the same time, you see a lot of space companies struggling these days and going out of business. A lot of the SPACs are not doing very well. Is that $1 trillion economy really there now? Are we on the right track to grasp it?
Yeah. I spared you my usual keynote where that is actually topic. So Virgin Galactic famously, right? They took 21 years to reach orbit with a few passengers who didn't even pay, and the stock is down 98%, right? And you can find some others, but there's also other space companies that do quite well. And just looking at the stock market is also not fair. SpaceX, obviously the most successful space company in the world, alone makes up way more than all these smaller specs have lost. So. That's part of the question. So if you zoom out, the answer is no. The answer is also no on the other part of the question, because that 600 billion growing to whatever, that's largely well understood in mature markets, connectivity and like navigation and I mean launch is just an endless. So that's not really in doubt. But you are of course also right that not all companies are up to the right. You have to be very competitive. We have one more question in the front.
Hello, Torsten. I just wanted to ask you if you have any updates regarding screening in Berlin.
You're the food guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Space food.
Space food. I think we all had a little bit of it in our bags. So talking to BDLI, I'm talking to Exolaunch and Live.io. Those are the three Berlin-based contact persons, some political connections to make it happen. But I need someone to say, okay, Torsten, let's do February 15th, and then everything starts moving. For me, I'm based in London. It's hard to make these things happen. In fact, maybe I should have told you. So we had a big premiere in Munich in the IMAX, the Deutsche Museum. We had a big premiere in Washington, D.C., Library of Congress. We had a fantastic Zurich-based event near the airport, and a few other events all around the world. London, obviously. But I need local heroes. I need you to say, come to my Christmas party and come to my space conference, come to our university. That's sort of the business model as well. So thank you for asking.
From my side, I think I can get in touch with the Babylon. This is the private cinema in center of Berlin, and we probably can talk about it.
Yeah, cool. All right, Emma, do you want to take over, or do you have a question? Do we have a question on that side, maybe? Otherwise, back to you.
It's my turn. I love, as you called us, the sophisticated crowd. I don't think you know us enough. Okay, so let's see. What do we want to ask Torsten? Well, first of all, I think we should try to understand if it was difficult to do this documentary. Did you have any challenges? Did you have any moments when you were, or some parts that were particularly hard? Was it easy to find the people? Had there been some segment of all this process that were particularly hard? So tell us something about the challenges you had.
So the challenge for a project like this is not the access. Luckily, that's okay. Everybody wants to talk about their projects, their companies. And the challenge is funding. Again, sorry to harp on it, but you ask. so in midway through, try to fundraise didn't quite work. So I had to cut costs, cut some production trips. I didn't go to New Zealand. Maybe you saw that was a Zoom interview, 2 or 3 Zoom interviews. And the music, which I think you did not notice, but that was AI generated, basically almost for free, instead of hiring a proper composer. So I had to cut some corners, but I've never heard anyone noticing or complaining about it. And then otherwise, 90 interviews, let's say 45 of those can forget. So there's 40 interviews in 90 minutes. Most of it is me talking. So it's, again, you have like, time for 18 minutes of sound bites out of 18 hours. So how do you cut down an interesting 1-hour interview into the best 3 sound bites? And that's why all of you are storytellers. When you are in front of the camera, give me sexy, snappy, interesting bits. Tell me that you're the Uber in space. Tell me about the bus, the guy next to you smelly. I mean, of course I'm going to take that, right? Storytelling.
Instead, what was your favorite part? What was the fun part to do? Like, is there specifically one interview that was mind-blowing, someone that particularly impressed you?
Yeah, many, hard to pick a favorite child, but Anousheh Ansari was one of those person that really impressed me. For you that don't know, she's born in Iran, dreamt about being an astronaut, sold a business later, and then actually bought her way to a Soyuz rocket to the International Space Station. That's years, a decade before the billionaires went up. She actually did it. And she also is the one who funded the X Prize that then Virgin Galactic won, which was actually financed by Microsoft co-founder, billionaire, then bought by Richard Branson, another billionaire. So actually another theme here is the billionaires are not bad. The billionaires have been investing in this for 20 plus years. And now, the press is like, oh, they're dominating space. Well, they've also had the patience.
And if you have to make a comparison between the Bitcoin market, so between your first documentary and this one, which are the main differences? What do you think? The 2 sectors are particularly well defined, or there are point of contacts between them?
Yeah, so nobody grows up wanting to be a Bitcoin millionaire or a crypto trader, but a lot of people want to grow up to become an astronaut. So this industry has something very special. It's not only very smart and capable people, but also like this inert, we dream for the stars. All our religions have something to do with the heavens. So there's something very special here, and we're at the right moment. I mean, this gets me inspired, and I'm a huge Bitcoiner. I believe in it, and I can talk about it all day, but this is somehow different. This is for humanity, so to speak.
I think the point of contact between Bitcoin and space is actually Elon Musk, who does both, now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, final question, and then I think then we can all go for dinner. What's coming next? I mean, what's the next movie? We saw the Bitcoin, we saw the space sector. What's going to be your next project?
Yeah, so I hope that many of you will tell your friends about this film, especially if you live in an English-speaking country or where it's available. And hopefully you're part of the German version of the film. Hopefully you think about, at my event, this might be a good screening. We've had phenomenal responses, and we need you to kind of connect to the film and bring it to the audience. So that's kind of my wish list. And what's next for me is the German mini-series, and then do this kind of every year, every 2 years, if I can fund it. So again, I'll be hopefully a frequent visitor at these events.